Good morning. Welcome to Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Deborah Roberts, and I'm one of the pastoral associates here at MVUU. Welcome to you, whether you are near or far, with us physically or remotely. And I'd like us to take a minute to greet those who are not here in person by turning around and giving a wave to the camera. You are so important to us, and we value your participation in today's service. We especially welcome those of you who are attending MVUU for the first time or who have just begun to get acquainted with us. We are so happy that we have been seeing so many new faces here at MVUU, and we want you to get to know us better, and for us to get to know you better. I invite you now to take a quick moment to exchange a greeting with somebody sitting near you, especially someone whom you have not met before. Thank you. That was our quick moment. UUs love to talk, especially this guy in the front row over here. Thank you all for being here today. We are better and we are stronger because we are here together. This congregation is served by the Reverend Matthew Funk Crary, who has been with us for just about 3 months now. Did I get that right? 2.5 months. In any case, we hope, Reverend Matthew, that you feel warmly welcomed here. I also want to recognize our multi-talented music director, Chris Tackett, who's at the piano today. I wanted to dance during that first. Over the last few weeks, we've been thanking the folks who make our Sunday services possible, the greeters, the hospitality crew, and our AV team. They definitely deserve our gratitude. This week, I want to recognize some other people who do so much behind the scenes. Sally Wistrand is ably managing the demands of the Pastoral Care Committee, and there have been many demands as of late, along with stepping in as treasurer of the congregation. Warren Ellis, who's not here today, is head of Buildings and Grounds, and he returned from a lengthy vacation to find quite a honey-do list waiting for him. There was a group that met here this week to find a way to have more parking spaces in anticipation of the return of our snow and rainbirds. The nominating committee met this week to work on a plan to build leadership potential within the congregation. And lastly, I want to give a big shout out to our administrator, Erin Chadwell, who wears so many hats so beautifully. If you see her or have occasion to call the church, please thank her directly for all that she does. So this is our third Sunday talking about the multiverse. And I'm sure that by now you all have a very good concept of what the multiverse is. No? I see a shaking head. Well, we just happen to have a video that will explain it all to you.
What is the multiverse? The multiverse is a hypothetical group of multiple universes. Together, these universes comprise everything that exists. The entirety of space, time, matter, energy, information, and the physical laws and constants that describe them. Multiple universes have been hypothesized in cosmology, physics, astronomy, religion, philosophy, transpersonal psychology, music, and all kinds of literature, particularly in science fiction, comic books, and fantasy. In these contexts, parallel universes are also called alternate universes, quantum universes, interpenetrating dimensions, parallel universes, parallel dimensions, parallel worlds, parallel realities, quantum realities, alternate realities, alternate timelines, alternate dimensions, and dimensional planes. Examples of the multiverse that you might be familiar with are It's a Wonderful Life, the 1946 holiday classic. When George Bailey wishes he'd never been born, we see an alternate reality of the world without him. Most Star Trek shows, from the original series through to today, incorporate the mirror universe, a dystopian parallel dimension filled with shadow versions of familiar characters. Schrodinger's cat, the thought experiment devised in 1935 by Erwin Schrödinger in conversations with Albert Einstein. It imagines a quantum situation where a cat, hidden from view, is in a state both alive and dead, implying the existence of quantum realities. While the multiverse sounds like a trip into Unitarian Universalist Rod Serling's Twilight Zone, it is actually much more close to home than that. It is the potential and possibility of our imagination for both life-giving and destructive realities. I am. We are sharing all this with you, as we will be shifting into the multiverse within our Sunday services. Exploring the multiverse together, we can find great potential and possibility within, among, beyond our Mountain Vista home.
Thank you, Robin, for that wonderful video. When we talked about the multiverse last week, Reverend Matthew used the metaphor of the toasted everything bagel. And this week, we're going with the whole enchilada. I tried to find the origin of that phrase, and my research was pretty inconclusive, but there seemed to be general consensus that it started being used sometime in the 60s. The word enchilada itself comes from the Spanish verb enchilar, which means to coat with chili, to cover with chili, as traditional Mexican enchiladas are. Enchiladas are a ubiquitous street food all over Central America, and the contents and size vary widely from beans to meat to combinations of vegetables. Yes, there are multiple versions of enchiladas, which make them a perfect fit for our discussion of the multiverse. Some of us met yesterday down at UCT, and we were talking about, well, one of our tasks was to design an order of service that maybe was different from what we usually experience. One thing we all agreed on was that the service needs to start with lighting the chalice, as we will do now. As we kindle this flame, may it spark in each of us connection and commitment to this living tradition and to each other.
Our sacred song this morning is the number doesn't matter because we're going to project the words. The song is Where My Free Spirit Onward Leads, and Joel will be leading us. Please rise in body or in spirit.
Where my free spirit onward leads, well, there shall be my way. By my own light illumined, I journeyed night and day. My age a time-worn cloak I wear, as once I wore my youth. I celebrate life's mystery, I celebrate death's truth. My family is not confined to mother, maid, and child, but it includes all creatures, be they when they wild. earth includes all living things. I celebrate life's mystery. You're born aloft on wings. The ever-spinning universe, well, that shall be my home. I sing and spin within it, as through this life I roam. Eternity is hard to ken, and harder still is this. A human life, when truly seen, is briefer than a kiss.
I invite you now to a time of contemplation, to consider and ponder our choice of freedoms. As Debbie mentioned, over the last few Sundays, we have boldly stepped into the multiverse. And I'm grateful that so many of you have been willing to join us in this hypothetical, fantastical, visionary journey. Thank you. Now, some of you know that the multiverse is actually pretty popular presently. It's the plot device for multi-million-dollar motion pictures. Its stunningly successful streaming series incorporate the multiverse openly, and it's alive in video games and in social media. Now, that's not the reason that we've chosen this theme for our services. It was selected because the concept of how we live among multiple, different, alternative, parallel universes, imagined or otherwise, it's starting to reflect something meaningful about our lives today. And that's why it probably is popular. We live in a world with more possibilities for personal choice than ever before in human history. From among the 1.14 billion websites that exist today, the 3 most accessed in the United States are Google, YouTube, and Amazon. And I discovered that because I Googled that. That means if you have access, and 80% of American adults have a smartphone, you can search for what you want to know, select what you want to see and hear, and pretty much buy anything that you are seeking at any moment as long as your device is charged and the Wi-Fi is good enough. You have access to more information, more entertainment, more consumer opportunities than any other human being on the world before us. And yet, and I don't know about you, but this doesn't feel like freedom to me. In the last few decades, and especially since the internet, we came to live in an increasingly globalized world, an increasingly interconnected world, and therefore an increasingly uncertain world, says Tom van der Linden, a philosopher and interpreter of popular culture. He continues, this is not so much an opportunity given to us as it is a fate imposed upon us. And this, I think, is what so many stories are trying to articulate with the multiverse as its primary metaphor. It is increasingly clear that we have begun to experience the implications of nearly unlimited choice. We have begun to feel it. And it is the feeling that you have become an individual, having become at once more important and less capable. The ultimate determinant of your own fate, and also increasingly powerless spectator within it. of having your own actions embedded in a global web of implications, say, a multiverse of possibilities, end quote. This multiverse of possibilities, an extreme freedom of choice, has not led us to individual freedom. Psychologist Barry Schwartz, in his book, The Paradox of Choice, Why Less is More, argues that excessive freedom of choice focuses people on their individual wants and far less on our collective needs. It directs us to disengagement, distraction, and ultimately dissatisfaction. And it's painful. It's painful because we know somehow, somewhere deep within our souls, we're missing out on relationship, on engagement, on that interdependence that's at the core of our lives. And yet, even within this situation that has been given to us, forced upon us, we still have a choice. We can continue to choose personal freedoms that Google and YouTube and Amazon offer, or we can choose a collective liberation, one that exists only among our families and our friends, and yes, this faith community. Think of that for a moment. That within a multiverse of possible choices, we still are able to choose the kind of freedom we wish to live. We can choose an individual freedom and live multiple, if very separate lives. Or we can choose a collective liberation and live in this one universe, join together in a single world, and forge liberation together. The choice, of course, is yours. And it is ours. May we seek and find that liberation together.
I'm sorry.
1 second. Just 1 second. Thank you. On Friday, a Pima County judge on Friday reinstated a ban on abortions in Arizona that dates back to 1864. Yeah, go ahead. I'll be a little while. And then we'll sing. Thank you. We'll sing in just a moment.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Oh, how could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
On Friday, a Pima County judge reinstated a ban on abortions in Arizona that dates back to 1864. This ban coincides with the United States Supreme Court ruling overturning Roe versus Wade, and that not only denied women reproductive rights, but in the supporting opinion threatened the right to privacy and to marriage equality. And these are genuine threats to our freedom of choice over our bodies and how we choose to live and who it is that we love. And these threats are offensive to our faith. To paraphrase the Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray, president of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, in response to that Supreme Court ruling, this anti-choice decision by the Supreme Court infringes upon our deeply held religious beliefs. Access to abortion and the right to choose is an issue of gender equality, body autonomy, and religious liberty, all of which are long-held Unitarian Universalist religious teachings. The decision to limit basic human rights means that the fight will shift to legislatures across the country. And guided by our moral values, we are prepared to be a part of that ongoing struggle and continue to show up for reproductive justice in all aspects of public life. And before joining that struggle, our faith also offers us a pause to acknowledge how this moment feels, and then assist us in envisioning what is next. And so if this moment you feel fear or grief or anger, they are welcome here, and they are healthy and natural responses. Bring them with you, the whole you, into this community to be heard and to be held. We listen and we engage one another so that our shared fears can be transformed into trust, that our grief can be held in love, and that our anger can become the very real fuel in the struggle for justice. We do not pray with our heads bowed in silence. We pray in song. We sing first for all of those suffering from this current ruling. We sing for all of those we love. And we sing aloud to each other and our own hearts and souls. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you are less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. Amen.
Tonight at sundown begins Rosh Hashanah. It is the beginning of the Jewish High Holy Days. It's a period of reflection and prayer and community. It marks the end of the lunar calendar, so Happy New Year, one and all, and begins the days of awe, which culminate in Yom Kippur in 10 days. This is a reading from the Reverend Victoria E. Safford. Reverend Safford is the minister of the White Bear UU Church in Minnesota. She writes, "Imagine this. On the days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur every fall, every year, people make their peace with anyone they have wronged or slighted or injured or in any way neglected in the past 12 months. The task is not to patch things up, to smooth things over, or to reach a compromise, or to sweep mistakes and uneasy memories under the rug. The task is not to feel better. The task is ownership. The goal is truth for its own redemptive sake. I did this. I said this to you, and it was wrong. I neglected this. I botched this. I betrayed you thusly. I demeaned you, whether you ever knew it or not. This is the truth in which both of us are living. I ask you to forgive me." Imagine how many deep breaths you would need to take. Imagine how many doors you'd have to knock on, how many phone calls you'd have to make, how many letters, how many lunches and coffees, how many awkward moments with your children and your parents, and with strangers like that cashier to whom you spoke so harshly. Awkward is irrelevant. The task is not about comfort. It is about truth, about wholeness and holiness and restoration. Imagine this. Someone has been preparing all year to speak with you, to write to you, to ask you a hard question. Perhaps in some way not quite conscious, you may have even known this, and you have been preparing too. Finally, you answer the door or the phone or open the letter with shaky hands, and there it is. What you thought you'd been longing for but really have dreaded. Someone is asking your forgiveness. The talk is not about comfort. It is about truth. Awkward is irrelevant. You get to choose now. You have to choose whether and how you will participate in restoration. Abandon the pleasant piety that claims knee-jerk forgiveness as the unquestioned moral course. You get to choose which way will be right in this case between the two of you as persons and with all your gods. What response will make the world more whole? Imagine something yearns in us to come round right. Something creaky, rusty, heavy, almost calcified within us tries, and sometimes in spite of us and of all of our fears and self-deceptions, to turn and turn and creak and turn again and come around a little truer. Something in us stretches toward conversion. Imagine healing fully from within. This next piece is from our hymnal. It's number 218, if you're following along at home. It's a setting by a German composer who fled in the Holocaust, and he wound up in Japan during a lot of the course of World War II. And then he emigrated to the US afterwards and became cantor and composer and choir master in Chicago, Max Janowski. And he was quite successful and wrote a whole lot of beautiful music. This piece, however, is a setting of Yehu L'Ratzon, or the text you probably know in English, "May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer. We're going to sing it through. We're going to go through it 3 times. The first time I'll sing it in Hebrew. Second time and third time, I'll invite you to join me in singing the English that will be on the screens. Yehiu leratzon imrei fi v'hegion libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri v'goali Adonai tzuri Who can say I am free? I have purified my great heart. There are none on earth. There are none on earth. A new heart I will give, not stone, but one that frees. A new I will give, and one that frees. May this day make us strong. May the tree of life with good fruit bless us now. Amen. Bless us now. Amen. May we know, forgive, atone that we may live. May we now forgive that we may live. Amen.
At this very moment, there is an enchilada being baked for you. Now, this is not a metaphor or something to imagine or even an alternate universe. Our hospitality team has enchiladas in the oven and serving up samples for the fellowship following. I must apologize to all of you online that we cannot serve you up some as well. We'll have vegetarian and some gluten-free ones, as well as vegan options that are currently warming up. The cheese or the non-dairy alternative is right now melting. The sauce and the salsa is bubbling. And the aroma of Mexican spices is floating in the air a little further back, and of course, you're all wearing masks, so you can't quite enjoy that just yet. They are not ready, and I understand that they're getting warmed up, but I will still try to be brief. In her first novel, The Salt Eaters, Toni Cade Bambara crafts a story of healing, of restoration. It is a story of Velma, a community organizer who has been broken by local factionalism, by the loss of love, and by the seemingly unending struggle for justice. Minnie, the fabled healer of the district, comes to Velma's side, and as to begin that healing, offers these words of wisdom. Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well? Just so you're sure, sweetheart, and ready to be healed, because wholeness is no trifling matter. A lot of weight when you are well. And as Minnie heals Velma, we too are invited to be healed, invited into a wholeness that is hard work, and it is impossible to bear alone. Choosing to be healed from the painful divisions of our world, from the separations within our own lives, and to live as whole. It's a very hard choice to make. It means accepting that our relationships will be imperfect. It means that the possibility of your love will someday be lost. It means choosing to struggle every day just to hold on to basic human rights. And the truth is, it feels pretty reasonable to instead choose disengagement and distraction, even if it comes with a little bit of personal dissatisfaction. It is a choice that we can make. And I know, because I've made it before. I've had my moments where I have turned down the cries of the oppressed. Times where I have sought diversion from the challenges of my own relationships. I've avoided love because I know. I've experienced it. I know the pain when it ends. And then I realize that when I make these choices, I've chosen to miss out. Missed out on owning the only thing in this life that is truly mine. Missed out on the messy and the wonderful and the flavorful existence that I can choose to live with all of you. Missed out on being completely and painfully alive. You see, being healed and being whole means choosing nothing small, nothing less than the whole enchilada. Now, the bites of enchilada that you might choose to eat this morning, they could be a metaphor for our choice to be healed and to be whole. The enchiladas that we will enjoy have a long and troubled history. The first record of enchiladas comes from Spanish conquistadors as they were visiting Aztec courts in the early 1500s. They were then white corn tortillas piled with baked eggs and meat and vegetables, and as Debbie told us, wrapped up and served with a chili paste. It's most likely that the food originated with the Mayan civilization as a meal of tortillas wrapped up in a pumpkin paste and then also dipped into a chili sauce. But regardless of their origins, it was only 2 years after the first recorded instance of enchiladas, the conquistadors then began their vicious and their violent campaign to destroy the Aztec civilization. And they did. They completely and utterly destroyed a people and a culture. And as the Spanish armies undertook this campaign against the Aztec people, they adopted a version of the enchilada as a food easy to eat while on march. It was more like a burrito than in what we know an enchilada today, but it began to mobilize that particular food throughout what would eventually become Mexico. It took on other foodstuffs and flavors, cheese and spices, that by the time of Mexican independence in 1821, it had become a widespread and national food. What was once subsistence for plundering soldiers had become the pride of a whole nation. Now, there's more to tell, and it is a fascinating culinary history. There's more colonialism, there's more creativity, but I've not forgotten that we have some warming up for all of you right now. We will only get a few bites today, and yet I believe that we are hungry for the whole enchilada. The history and the relationships and the love that we can choose to miss out on, as messy as they get. I have that desire for more than a multiverse of individual choices that offer me a life of sheltered separation, and I suspect that you do as well. Then we share a deep need to live into the complexity and the confusion of our times, to take on the tragedy and the triumph in our own lives, to take a bite out of the whole enchilada together. And it's made me wonder, what if this multiverse that we keep playing with offers us more choices than just an ever-branching separation? What if it offers us the choice to risk being in relationship, to share values, and struggle alongside one another, to choose the hard work of collective liberation that can only be accomplished together? And that choice, as always, is yours. And the choice is one that we share. But if there is any incentive, our small bite of that whole history of enchilada, our whole open-hearted engagement, our whole radical love has the power and the transformation to inspire a change in it all. May it be so. Our final sacred song today is We Would Be One. If you are following at home, it's number 318. The words will be projected, and I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and follow Joel's lead.
We would be one as now we join in singing a hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other, to show to all a new community. We would be one in building for ourselves to greater service, to love and justice, strive to make us free.
As we come to our closing, I offer you these words from the Reverend Betts Winnicky. May we leave this place seeking an uncharted and freely chosen way to wholeness, knowing that we have companions along the way. So as you leave this morning, you will notice 2 bowls, a wooden one for your offering to support the ministry of this congregation, and a woven one for a collection for our companion organization this month, Interfaith Community Services. ICS engages in wholeness by partnering with 120 religious organizations throughout Pima County to bring food and job support and community program into the lives of thousands. While this is the end of our month taking up a woven basket offering for ICS, we will continue to be companions. Now, I believe that Joel left to ensure that those enchiladas are getting ready. And I want to thank Joel and I want to thank Stephanie for volunteering to make them when they heard I had a request this week. And that's kind of how it works. Our hospitality team has an open invitation sign up for you to bring refreshments, to sign up to help clean up and also set up. And that's so that our fellowship and our blood sugar lasts a little longer. And as you try a sample of those enchiladas today, take a moment to sign up for a future Sunday. Finally, I will be leading today's Renew UU gathering on our heritage and history in the Mesquite Room about 15 minutes after the postlude ends. Please join me if you are a longtime UU wishing to renew yourself in our faith, or if you're brand new today and you simply would like to know more. We release the flame of our chalice with these words by the Reverend Andrew Pulka. There are many miles behind you. There are many more ahead. As you journey on toward wholeness, may all that is good and true guide your way. May the joy of love lighten your every step, and the miracle that is life be ever in your vision.